Canine dog sniffs out barn and woods. What they found was chilling. It started with a growl, low, sharp, almost like a warning. No one else heard it, but Detective Alina Rourke did. It was the sound that pulled her head up from her coffee and made. Her eyes scanned the quiet street in front of her. Nothing looked out of place. Kids were walking home from school. The air smelled like dry leaves and distant barbecues. But her partner, Ranger, the retired canine by her side, was already standing, stiff ears forward. Whatever was coming, he had sensed it first. It was a golden fall afternoon in Bluebrook Falls. The sidewalks were scattered with crunchy red leaves. Fences were lined with plastic pumpkins, and wind chimes danced in the breeze. The whole neighborhood had the kind of calm that made people feel safe. Two girls, Callie and Uni, both 12, walked home from school, chatting about their math quiz and a new Halloween TikTok challenge Uni couldn't master. Backpacks bouncing and sneakers scuffing the sidewalk. They laughed without a care in the world, but Alina noticed it before they did. From her patrol SUV, parked near the corner gas station, Detective Alina Rourke sipped lukewarm coffee and rubbed Ranger's ears. The German Shepherd, her old partner, now officially retired, sat up straighter than usual. His nose twitched once, then again, a soft growl rumbled in his throat. Alina narrowed her eyes. Across the street, a white cargo van, rusted, with a dented fender and no windows in the back, was moving slowly behind the girls. Too slow, its engine barely hummed, and it hugged the curb like it didn't want to be seen. Ranger stood. Easy, Alina said softly, but the dog was already on alert. His muscles were coiled, his gaze locked on the van. Callie turned slightly and glanced back. Her expression shifted from confusion to fear. She grabbed Uni's arm. "That van's been following us," she whispered. Uni looked, then laughed nervously. "It's probably a delivery guy. No logos, no plates." That's when the van picked up speed. Ranger barked, loud and sharp, and yanked forward, snapping his leash from Alina's hand. The dog tore across the street like a bullet. The van's tires squealed, and the engine roared louder. It accelerated, heading straight for the girls. "Ranger!" Alina shouted, heart racing, but the dog didn't stop. In one motion, Ranger leapt between the girls and the van, barking like thunder. The girls froze, eyes wide. The van screeched to a stop, inches from Ranger's fur. The front bumper hissed, with heat. Inside, behind the windshield glare, the driver's face was hidden by shadows and a baseball cap. For a second, time stopped. Then, Ranger lunged at the window. His paws struck the glass, claws screeching across it like knives. The driver panicked, slammed the van into reverse, and peeled away down the street. Alina ran to the girls, breath short. "Are you hurt?" Callie shook her head. He was going to hit us." Ranger stayed alert, growling low, nose in the air like he was tracking a scent only he could detect. Alina scanned the street. The van was gone, but then something caught Ranger's attention. He trotted a few feet toward a storm drain and pawed at it. Alina crouched and looked inside. There, stuck between rusted grates, was a tiny butterfly-shaped hair clip, pink and glittery. She picked it up gently. "This is yours?" she asked. Both girls shook their heads. "No," Callie whispered. "Never seen it before." Alina frowned. "Go home. Tell your parents what happened. I'll come check in later," as she watched them disappear down the sidewalk. Holding each other's hands, tight, Alina felt a chill run down her back. This wasn't just a close call. It felt planned. Ranger sat beside her again, tail stiff, eyes locked down the road where the van vanished. Alina tightened her grip on the clip. Something about it felt off. It was too clean, too new, too out of place, and Ranger was still tense, not relaxing even as the quiet returned. She looked down at her partner. "What is it, boy?" Ranger didn't move. His eyes just stared, like he could still see what was coming. The next morning, Detective Alina Rourke sat at her desk in the Bluebrook Falls Police Department, staring at the pink butterfly hair clip Ranger had found. She turned it over in her fingers again and again. It looked too small to matter, but her gut said it mattered a lot. Across the room, Mira Chen, the department's cyber analyst, tapped away at her keyboard. "I pulled the traffic camera footage from Oakleaf Drive," she said. "Want to see?" Alina stood and walked over. Mira played the clip. It showed the same white van, dented, slow, and silent, creeping behind Callie and Uni. Then the moment Ranger leaped into action, then the van speeding off. "Pause it," Alina said. Zoom in on the passenger seat. The picture was blurry, but something caught her eye. A stuffed yellow elephant sat next to the driver. It looked worn and loved, like it belonged to a small child. Wait, Alina whispered. I've seen that before. She opened a folder from a nearby file cabinet, flipping through missing child reports. Then she stopped. There it was. The same elephant was in the photo for Harper Voss, a 6-year-old girl who had vanished from a nearby town 2 weeks ago. Mira's voice was quiet. You think it's the same kid? I think that clip belonged to her, Alina said, pointing to the hair clip. And if that van was involved, Harper might still be alive. Down at her feet, Ranger let out a quiet whine. Like he understood every word. Alina turned to Mira. Run the van through any traffic cams near the park and school zones. Let's see if we can find where else it's been. Later that afternoon, Alina visited Harper's mother, Dana Voss. At her small home on the edge of town, the house was quiet, and a worn missing poster still hung on the door. Dana's eyes were tired and red as she opened the door. Alina showed her the photo of the elephant. Dana gasped, her hand flying to her chest. That's Harper's. She carried it everywhere. Alina gently placed the clip in Dana's hand. This was found yesterday. Tears filled Dana's eyes. You think she's still alive? I don't know, Alina said softly. But I think we're closer than ever. Back at the station, Ranger paced the floor, nose sniffing the air as if he could feel the urgency. Alina clipped on his harness, the word retired still stitched on the side, in faded thread, but this case had brought him back, at least for now. They hit the road together, checking alleys, bus stops, and empty lots. Ranger sniffed everything. Bushes, street corners, even mailboxes. He kept pulling hard toward the old lot behind the town's strip mall. The place was silent, just trash, leaves, and graffiti on cracked walls. Then Ranger stopped. He stared at a rusted storm drain and started to growl. Slowly, he pawed at the grass beside it. Alina crouched down. There, under some wet leaves, was a tiny pink sneaker, child-sized, nearby. She spotted a rope, frayed at the ends. She pulled out gloves and carefully picked them up. A lump formed in her throat. This was no accident. Ranger sniffed the rope. Then the sneaker. His ears stiffened, his body alert again. Suddenly, a voice crackled from Elena's radio. Detective Rourke, Mira found a hit. The van was seen 2 days ago at a gas station off Route 14. Plates still unreadable, but it's the same vehicle. Elena stood, heart thudding. We've got a trail. We just have to stay on it. That night, Elena sat at her kitchen table, staring at old case files. Ranger lay on the floor beside her, eyes still open, watching the door. He hadn't rested all day. Elena reached down and rubbed behind his ears. You knew, before I did. You always know. Ranger gave a soft sigh and pressed his head into her lap. The world was quiet again. But Elena knew it wouldn't last. This wasn't random. This was planned. And if that van had Harper, then someone else was behind it. Someone who had done this before. Someone who was probably planning to do it again. Ranger's eyes stayed locked on the door, waiting, watching, ready. The next day, Elena and Myra sat in front of a computer screen at the station. The latest footage from the gas station on Route 14 had just come in. There, Myra said, pointing. That's the van. The camera angle showed it clearly. Same white cargo van, same dented fender. The driver got out to pump gas. He wore a baseball cap low over his eyes, hiding most of his face. Wait, Elena said. Zoom in on the driver's hand. On his wrist was a faded tattoo of a sparrow. Elena's stomach turned. I've seen that before, she said. That's Lyle Denvers. He used to work for county transport. He drove kids in the foster system. Got fired 5 years ago for behavioral concerns. No one ever said what that meant. Mira pulled up his file. He's off the grid. No known address. But guess what? He owns a storage shed 2 towns over. Elena felt her breath catch, pulled the location. An hour later, Elena and Ranger stood outside a row of rusted storage units off a dirt road. The wind rustled the trees, and the place smelled of gasoline and dust. Ranger sniffed the air and started pulling toward Unit 12. Elena drew her flashlight and gun. Let's go, she whispered. The lock had been cut. Inside the unit, it was dark and cold. The walls were lined with tarps and boxes. In the far corner, under a pile of blankets, something moved. Ranger barked. Elena rushed forward and pulled the blankets back. A little girl blinked up at her, eyes wide with fear. face streaked with tears. She clutched a yellow stuffed elephant. "Harper," Alina breathed. "You're safe now." The girl didn't speak, just reached out and hugged Ranger tightly. The dog stood still as stone, but his tail wagged once. Gently, Alina called it in. "This is Detective Rourke. I have found Harper Voss, alive." After paramedics arrived and took Harper to safety, Alina climbed into her car with Ranger. "You did good," she whispered, "but it's not over." Back at the station, Mira showed Alina something chilling. "There's more," she said, eyes tense. "Lyle Denvers didn't do this alone. FBI reports link him to a wider group, moving kids across back roads, using people with clean or hidden records." Alina leaned closer. "He's part of a ring." Mira nodded. "I think Harper was supposed to be the first of 3 pickups this week." Alina clenched her jaw. "We need to move, now." She and Ranger hit the road again, following Mira's tip. The van had been spotted behind an old greenhouse outside town. It sat near a forgotten farm with broken windows and vines climbing up the walls. Ranger growled before they even stopped the car. Alina stepped out slowly, hand on her gun. Behind the greenhouse, hidden under a tarp, sat the white van. Ranger barked once, sharp and certain. A figure appeared at the edge of the woods. It was Lyle Denvers. He held a pistol, shaking, sweat dripping down his face. "Stay back," he shouted. "You don't understand." "Put the gun down," Lyle, Alina said calmly. "This doesn't have to end this way. They're watching me," he whispered. "I didn't want to hurt anyone. I had to follow orders." "What orders?" Alina asked. But Lyle didn't answer. Suddenly, he pointed the gun toward her. Ranger lunged. The shot fired wide into the trees. Ranger slammed into Lyle's arm, knocking the gun loose. Alina rushed in and kicked it away. She pinned Lyle to the ground and snapped handcuffs around his wrists. "It's over," she said, panting. Ranger stood beside her, chest heaving, teeth bared. His ears stayed pointed toward the trees, as if listening for more. In the back of the van, Alina found another backpack, small and pink, with a stitched name tag, Lena. "No kid inside," she whispered, "but someone else was supposed to be." Lyle began crying. "They said if I didn't do it, they'd come after me. You don't know what they're capable of." Alina stood slowly, her heart heavy. "Then tell me, help me stop them." As backup arrived and officers took Lyle away, Alina looked down at Ranger. "You trusted your nose," she whispered. "You led me here." Ranger didn't bark. He just looked up at her, eyes calm but alert, like he already knew what was next. And deep down, Alina knew too. The bigger threat hadn't even shown its face yet. The sun had barely risen the next morning when Detective Alina Rourke returned to the police station. She hadn't slept, neither had Ranger, who now lay at her feet, head resting on his paws, ears still twitching with alertness. On her desk sat a file labeled Lena Morales, missing. The same name stitched into the pink backpack found in the van. The girl hadn't been rescued. She hadn't even been found yet. Across from her, Mira Chen tapped on her tablet, her face serious. "I've been working all night," she said. "The FBI confirmed what we feared. This isn't just one man. It's a network. They use people like Lyle Denvers to move kids quietly. No paperwork, no questions. They slip through the cracks." Alina rubbed her tired eyes. "How many?" "At least 6 kids confirmed missing in the last 3 months, all near school zones. All near quiet neighborhoods like ours." Ranger let out a low growl, like he could feel the tension in the room. Alina sat up straighter. "We're not letting this go. We're going after them." That afternoon, Sheriff Bo Garrett called an emergency meeting. He stood tall with a weathered face and a gravelly voice that carried authority. "I want Rourke and Ranger on lead," he said. "No one else on this force has tracked this close to the ring. The FBI will back you up. But you're first in." Alina nodded. Ranger stood at her side like he understood every word. They headed back out, following a map Myra created. Red pins marked where children had vanished. One location stood out, Pine Hollow Road, just off Route 14. It was remote, mostly forest, a perfect place to hide something you didn't want anyone to find. They drove in silence, tension heavy in the air. Ranger sat in the passenger seat, his nose twitching as wind rushed in through the cracked window. Then, suddenly, he let out a sharp bark. Alina hit the brakes. "What is it?" Ranger leaned toward a narrow dirt road, almost invisible behind overgrown bushes. No signs, no tire marks, just a path leading into thick woods. Alina radioed in. This is Rourke. We're near mile marker 27 on Route 14, possible lead. Requesting backup, but we're going in. She clipped Ranger's harness back on. This time, she added a patch that read active duty. The old dog had earned it. They moved quietly through the woods, each step crunching leaves. The trees were tall and silent. Ranger stayed close, nose to the ground. After a few minutes, they reached it. A large, run-down barn, half covered in vines, its wooden walls sagging with age. Faint voices came from inside, men talking in low, hurried tones. Alina crouched, through a crack in the wall. She spotted two kids huddled in the corner, hands tied, eyes wide with fear. Her heart pounded. They couldn't wait for backup. "Stay with me," she whispered to Ranger. She crept to the barn's side door, easing it open with barely a sound. The smell of old hay and oil hit her. Crates and tarps covered the floor. One man paced with a phone, pressed to his ear. Another stood near the back. Facing the kids, Ranger growled softly. Alina raised her gun and stepped forward. "Police, drop your weapons." Chaos exploded. The man by the kids reached for something. Alina tackled him. Ranger launched toward the second man, barking like thunder. The suspect raised a pipe, but Ranger was faster. He slammed into the man, teeth bared, forcing him down. Alina cuffed the first guy quickly, then turned to see Ranger standing over the second. Growling deep and steady, "You're done," she said. Breathless, she ran to the kids, gently untying their hands. "You're safe now," she whispered. One of the children, a girl with dark hair and wide eyes, spoke. "Are you the lady with the dog?" Alina nodded. The girl reached out and hugged Ranger. "He found us, outside." Sirens wailed. Backup had arrived. Officers rushed in, securing the area. Later that night, Elena sat in the station's break room, finally exhaling. A warm coffee steamed in her hands, untouched. Ranger lay by her feet, calm now, eyes slowly closing. Mira entered with a smile. "The kids are safe. Their parents are on the way." One of them was Lena Morales. Alina closed her eyes, letting the relief wash over her. "Looks like we stopped them in time," Myra added. Sheriff Garrett walked in, nodding. "You and that dog just saved lives." Detective Alina looked down at Ranger. "He never stopped working, even when we thought he was done." Ranger wagged his tail once, soft and proud. Outside the window, stars blinked. In the quiet sky, the town slept. "Safe once more," Alina whispered. "Good job, partner." And beside her, the old canine rested, finally at peace, until the next call came.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Love Tales of Tales, for long, heartwarming pets and animals. Love stories that stay with you long after they end.